All right, guys, back here on Southeastern 14 with Chase Robinson. We continue our look at all the SEC schedules for the 2024 season in SEC football. Made our way to the Crimson Tide of Alabama, a new look Crimson Tide, of course, with Kalen DeBoer as the new head coach there. We'll talk all about that and these games on the schedule. Before we do, let's tell you about BetOnline, your number one source for the NBA Finals and Stanley Cup playoffs this season. Every stat, every matchup, live odds, spreads while the games are being played, it's all there. And when it's over, you can head over to the online casino, get on a game of blackjack or poker, or unwind with one of over their 150 slots games. Head to the website today to get on the action. Use the promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online, the game starts here. All right, Chase, as always, we pull up the schedule here, and we look at the Crimson Tide, who will kick off the Kalen DeBoer era on August 31st. They're going to play Western Kentucky. Interesting first three games there. Western Kentucky, USF, which I think most Alabama fans hoping that USF game this year looks a little bit better than the one a year ago. And then at Wisconsin, those two teams have only played a couple times in their history. Of course, the most recent game in 2015. For some reason, I thought that game was way more recent than that. But that just tells you how quickly time flies. Alabama won that game in Arlington in 2015, 35-17. So should be, again, a manageable start for Kalen DeBoer to kick things off. But, hey, anytime you go to Camp Randall, interesting, tricky game maybe on September 14th.
Yeah, I think this is a good start for on the schedule for Alabama. I mean, Western Kentucky, a team that they've been competitive
Yeah.
in Conference USA. Tyson Helton has got them to a good spot, but obviously going into Bryant-Denny Stadium will be tough, and Alabama will be heavily favored. That's an ESPN game. They've picked that up to see Kalen DeBoer's first game as head coach at Alabama. So I think Alabama will roll to start the season, especially the first two. And you mentioned last year the South Florida game. I mean, that was ugly. I mean, yeah, the weather delays, not great football being played on the field. And so I think that was South Florida's best shot at ever beating Alabama was last year. The Alabama ended up winning that game. So I think that will be on the mind of the Crimson Tide when they take the field there in that second game. But when you start a season with a new coach and there's a lot of question marks, I think these are two good first games to kind of work some kinks out before you get into the rest of it. And you mentioned that game, game 3 at Camp Randall up at Wisconsin. This is an interesting game. I mean, you've seen the two teams play, like you said, it's been a while, but this is kind of a game with two kind of storied programs, and it's at Wisconsin, which I think is going to be tough for Alabama. I think it's definitely a winnable game for the Tide, but still, I mean, when you go on the road like that against a team, I feel like they're going to be getting better under Luke Fickell. So I think this could be a tough one for Alabama. I'm not saying to put this one on upset alert or anything here in early June, but I think it could be tough for Alabama to go up there and win that one.
Yeah, Wisconsin went 7-6 last year, but now you come into this season, they're going to start the season um, with 3 home games. And again, you play Western Michigan, South Dakota, then they play Alabama on September 14th. So yeah, I think it is kind of tricky. It's a tricky spot for Alabama, especially early in the season. But of course, how much do we learn about Alabama in those first couple games? Maybe not a ton, unless things go the wrong way. But yeah, I think that's certainly your first game you're looking at and saying, all right, this is the one where we really learn about maybe what this is going to look like for the Crimson Tide.
And you can't,
There,
and if you're Alabama, you can't look ahead in this game because the game
no,
we're going to look at next is
yeah,
huge. So you can't look ahead past this Wisconsin game.
yeah. That's the thing too, is it does come before the biggest game, the one that's going to be talked about the most, and that is after the bye week. We know Alabama is going to host Georgia at Bryant-Denny Stadium, and that's a game we could do an entire 30-minute schedule preview on just the meaning and ramifications of that game. But like we said, Chase, I think this is where maybe whatever we see from Alabama in that Wisconsin game, if they're able to go up there and let's say get a double-digit win at a really tough place to play in Wisconsin, that would sort of set the tone coming back home for this game a couple weeks later. But let's say Alabama goes in, loses at Wisconsin, or it's a game where they don't play well and maybe they just squeak one out, knowing that Georgia still they're still projected to be the top dog, even though it didn't finish out that way last season, as we know. But yeah, this is not going to be an easy one. The primetime ABC game there, September 28th.
Yeah, I mean, when I saw the schedule and I saw this would be Kalen DeBoer's first SEC game, I thought, well, at least it's in Tuscaloosa. I mean, it's tough no matter what, but I think it's good Alabama has this one at home, in front of the Tide faithful there for DeBoer's first SEC game. But yeah, Georgia, I mean, they're unanimously, picked to, I think, win the SEC, or probably will be one of the best teams in the country. I mean, but we're at a point, Blake, and we've talked about it before. Like, if you're Alabama and you're undefeated up to this point, I think if you lose this game, you can still say, "Hey, we still have a shot at the playoff." That's
Yep.
just the kind of the way we are now with the 12-team playoff. So, yes, Alabama wants to win this game, but even if you do drop this game, and the same for Georgia, even if Alabama wins this game, both of these teams still have a great shot at making the 12-team playoff and maybe even a push to win it all. So I think that's what's cool about this game. In years past, this game could have decided whether a team could make the 4-team playoff or not on a September 28th matchup. But I think now, even with this game, you can take a deep breath after the game is played and say, hey, we still have a shot at the playoff.
Yeah, that's a good point. And you said kind of the previous games, really the last 6 games these teams have played against each other. You go back to 2018. It feels like every game has just been, do or die. Like it really has felt that way. And like you said, now with the expanded playoff, it's still a huge game for both teams, but there is perhaps fewer consequences if you lose this game, assuming you don't get blown out or anything. And so, yeah, I think that's what changes about the dynamic here. And of course, it changes without Nick Saban, too. But Kalen DeBoer, as you mentioned, first taste of the SEC will be at home against Georgia. So, an interesting place to start there for sure. And then if you go to the next couple, I think these are 2 games that Alabama should be likely double-digit favorites in, I would think. At Vanderbilt, home against South Carolina. The one against South Carolina, I'm just like, that's just another one of those we've talked about in other videos. It's like Alabama, South Carolina. You just don't feel like, that's one of those games that you don't see very often. But again, that they should be, no matter what happens in that Georgia game, I would expect Alabama to likely be double-digit favorites in both of these games here at Vanderbilt and at home against South Carolina.
Yeah, it's kind of proven if you keep up with Alabama football. Let's say they drop that one to Georgia. If they lose a game the next couple of weeks, they play really well. And and even if they beat Georgia, that's going to prove that they're a really good football team. So, yeah, I think these two, come at a good time after Georgia. It's not like you play Georgia and then you have Tennessee, LSU, Oklahoma. No, they've got a trip to Nashville. And then South Carolina coming to Tuscaloosa. 2 teams that, like you said, we haven't seen Alabama play a ton. We haven't seen Alabama make a road trip to Nashville a lot, and South Carolina come to Tuscaloosa. So those are good matchups to see just because we haven't seen them a lot in recent history. But yeah, I think those are 2 games that Alabama should be able to win. But I am looking forward to South Carolina, Alabama. Just obviously we saw some good matchups back in when Steve Spurrier was there at South Carolina. They're a different team now, but still maybe they can come in and compete with Alabama a little bit in Tuscaloosa. But definitely, I think 2 winnable games there for the Crimson Tide.
Yeah, most recent meeting 2019 didn't play. 2010 was the year before that. So yeah, we've only seen these 2 teams. This will be the second time in 14 years, I guess these 2 teams have played. So, yeah, not very often we see Alabama, South Carolina, but 2 very winnable games in that portion of the schedule. And then, boy, this is where if you just, we obviously take this a game at a time, but if you just look at sort of the next 6 weeks for Alabama at that point, and you can go 7. I mean, you can go into the Iron Bowl, of course, too. But you look at these potential pitfalls, right? And we talked about the Georgia one early on. This is definitely a schedule where it kind of feels like, I don't want to necessarily say it's a tale of 2 halves, because like we said, even the game at Wisconsin may not be fun for Alabama. Then you've got the Georgia game, but this is where business starts to pick up. At Tennessee, home against Missouri, who again projected as a top 10 team. At LSU, you've got at Oklahoma in there. Of course, you've got the Iron Bowl on November the 30th. You've got the game against Mercer sandwiched in there too. But man, Chase, I mean, this is, we mentioned earlier, let's say you drop a game to Georgia or something. This is where navigating this part of the schedule, the back half here, and trying to figure out, can we get the amount of wins we need to make a playoff? It is not going to be easy when you look at these remaining games on the schedule here with all, 3 road games in Knoxville, Baton Rouge, and Norman. You've got Missouri, who feels like maybe this is an opportunity. Saban leaves, year one DeBoer. Maybe this is our chance to go in, get a huge win, keep building the momentum for the program. And then, as always, the Iron Bowl, you never know what you're going to get there. So, yeah, this is a loaded back half of the schedule here for Alabama.
It's tough. And, I was going to make that point, too. I mean, if Alabama's in the position where, like we said, you can lose 1 or 2 games and still make the playoff, well, I mean, you got to buckle down and play some football here. If the Georgia game didn't go like you wanted it to, if you're Alabama. So this is, I mean, a road trip to Knoxville. Remember what happened last time Alabama was in Knoxville. I'm not sure this Tennessee team is as good as that 22 team, but I think this is still going to be a very tough game for Alabama, and they could be a problem for Alabama there in Knoxville. It'll be tough on the road. So, I mean, I expect the third Saturday in October to live up to it like it did a couple of years ago. So that's going to be a tough one. And you mentioned Missouri. I mean, you said it right. I mean, they in their minds, this is the year to beat Alabama. And I think they're definitely going to be a playoff team. I think they're going to be really good if they can get all their pieces working together right. But the same goes for Alabama. So I think this could be a really good matchup there in Tuscaloosa on October the 26th. And again, this will be the last game of October. And I think Alabama will really need to round out October with 2 wins against Tennessee and Missouri to keep their playoff hopes alive heading into November.
Yeah, and then, again, we know kind of what the expectations are every year with the Alabama LSU game. We talked about LSU before. They're going to be a team that certainly, will have a new quarterback in Garrett Nussmeier, but we know the talent's there. And really for LSU, I think, as everyone would probably say, it's all about the defense. How does the defense look compared to last year? And so that could be interesting. By that point, you would just fully expect LSU to probably still be in the mix for a college football playoff spot at that point. So, like we said, you talk about the games are stacking up here with all these teams in a row. I mean, really, realistically, you're talking 3 teams in a row here: Tennessee, Missouri, LSU, who are all teams who feel like they have a chance to make the college football playoff. Then you kind of, again, you have the game against Mercer, and then Oklahoma, like, the newcomer. And what does Oklahoma look like by that point in the season? I think that's interesting too, because we'll talk about them in another video, but they don't exactly have an easy schedule to navigate either. But yet they also believe that they should, just like Texas, join a new conference, but still feel like they're going to be right there with a chance to join the playoffs. So those 2 road games there, boy, hostile environments, heading to Oklahoma as sort of the welcome to the SEC, Alabama, welcome to the new SEC with Oklahoma. It doesn't let up at that point.
Yeah, I want to talk about this LSU game because obviously we remember what happened last time Alabama went to Baton Rouge, but I think this is the second toughest game on the schedule for Alabama. I mean, I think LSU is going to be improved from last year. I mean, I go back to the Alabama LSU game last year. Jaden Daniels ended up winning the Heisman Trophy, had a great game on Alabama. He got hurt in that game. If he hadn't got hurt, Alabama was not stopping him. And the only thing that helped Alabama in that game is the lack of defense on LSU, as Alabama was able to put up some points too. So the last 2 meetings between Alabama and LSU have been really fun. I expect this one to be really good as well because there's questions on both teams. I don't think Alabama's defense is as well as it has been in years past this year, and we'll see what improvements LSU's made on defense. But I think it's 2 good offenses for sure, so it could be a shootout there in Baton Rouge. But I'm looking forward to this one. you imagine it's going to be a primetime night game there on November the 9th, but this should be a fun game as Alabama goes to LSU. Is it going to be as crazy as it was last time they were there? We'll see, but this should be a fun one there. And then you mentioned the at Oklahoma one as well. That's two really tough road games for Alabama there as they make the trip to Oklahoma. It's been since 2002 or something since they've played in Norman, but we'll see where Oklahoma is at this point of the season. I mean, obviously, I think they're a 10-win team, but will they be able to actually do that in the SEC? I think they can, but I think this should be a really good game too. Just with them being the newcomer, with them having the high expectations that they do. I mean, I think this could be a really fun late November matchup, and I think it's interesting placement for this game with it being the week before the Iron Bowl. That's tough when you have to make a trip to a team like Oklahoma the week before your rivalry game. I mean, where is Alabama's head going to be at in this game in Norman? This is a very important one. We mentioned all the important games. If Alabama wants a shot at the 12-team playoff, this one is huge for a late season matchup.
Yeah, before we finish with the Iron Ball, as we like to do, who did these teams play before they play you? We try to do that in some of these videos. And if we look at some of these bigger matchups in the back half of the schedule, we mentioned Tennessee. What a weird dynamic this is. Tennessee will play Florida the week before they play Alabama, which we're just not used to that, Chase.
Wow,
we're so used to Tennessee and Florida playing, way before that. But they're going to play Florida at Neyland Stadium the week before they host Alabama. So Tennessee gets the two big rivalry games back-to-back there in mid-October. And then if you look at Missouri hosts Auburn the week before. They travel to Bryant-Denny to play Alabama. If you look at LSU, no surprise, LSU gets the week off just like Alabama does before that game. And then if you look at Oklahoma gets a week off before they host Alabama on November 23rd. And boy, you're talking about a team that's got a tough last three games. Oklahoma's going to head to Missouri. They host Alabama, and they're at LSU. So, that's kind of the setup there. And then we do get to the Iron Bowl, as we said, to finish things up. I mean, Chase, we don't have to go, into this very much. Everyone knows if you're watching this video what's at stake in the Iron Bowl, what could be at stake for Alabama, like we said, given the nature of kind of trying to make the playoff now versus, you lose a game before, who knows where things stand. But I guess it's really just more about what are we going to see from Auburn? How is this season going to go for Hugh Freeze in his second year? That's probably the biggest question for this matchup.
Yeah, for sure. I think this would probably be one of the toughest games on the schedule if it was in Auburn. Obviously, we know crazy things happen when this game takes place in Auburn. But yeah, there's so many questions about the Tigers this year. It's in Tuscaloosa. Alabama, really good offense. There's a lot of questions in the Auburn secondary coming into this one. Yeah, obviously it's a rivalry game, and so I think it'll be a competitive game. But at this point, we'll just have to see where these two teams are. But it's always a fun game. There's no doubt about it. I've lived my whole life in the state of Alabama and have witnessed great Iron Bowls over the years, and so I am for sure looking forward to seeing the 2024 edition in late November. Crazy things happen in this game, and I expect it'll be a really, really good one again this year.
Yep, should be. Auburn hosts A&M the week before Jordan-Hare, so notable there on that one. But as always, guys, we will have you covered here at Southeastern 14, doing the schedule previews for every team in the league as we make the march towards the end of August when things get kicking off here. And to be able to check out all the stuff we have, hit the subscribe button. A lot more stuff on the way previewing the 2024 season in SEC football. So we appreciate you guys watching as always, and we'll talk to you again here soon at Southeastern 14.